Do you believe in curses? You need to watch this video before it gets taken down by the elites who want to see you visit the museum always. Because at the end of this video, you would not only believe in curses, but also feel a chill down your spine whenever you visit an antique shop or see a painting. We dive into a series of stories where objects of beauty and allure mask a sinister undercurrent. From the infamous Hope Diamond, cursed for centuries, to the haunted mirror at the Myrtles Plantation, these tales are woven with mystery, tragedy, and unanswered questions that beg to be explored. What connects them all? A warning: never trust what glimmers. Behind every sparkling surface lies a dark, untold story that may just change the course of your life. These are stories we don't tell. Let's begin with one of the most coveted and feared gems in history, the Hope Diamond. They say some stones remember, not just the light they've absorbed over years, but the hands that held them, the eyes that coveted them, the lives they touched or shattered. This is the story of one such stone. In 1642, in the ancient Golconda mines of India, a gem cutter named Tavernier was the first outsider to glimpse the extraordinary blue diamond embedded deep in the earth. The locals spoke of its ominous energy, an object they claimed was not formed by the earth alone, but infused with the divine wrath. It was said to have been a gift to the gods, and to take it was to tempt their fury. But Tavernier ignored the warnings. Greed outweighed caution. He smuggled the gem from its sacred resting place, knowing he could sell it for unimaginable riches. What he didn't know was that his act of theft would set in motion a chain of events so sinister it would echo through history. Within weeks of taking the diamond, Tavernier began suffering strange ailments. His hair fell out in clumps, his skin turned ashen, and at night, he claimed to hear whispers in a language he didn't understand. When he finally managed to sell the gem to King Louis XIV of France, he hoped to leave the curse behind. But shortly after returning to India, Tavernier was attacked by a pack of rabid wolves and torn apart in the wilderness. The villagers whispered that the goddess Sita herself had sent her earthly guardians to exact revenge. But the diamond was already overseas. Under King Louis XIV, the diamond became known as the French Blue. It was set into a lavish pendant, proudly worn as a symbol of France's wealth and power. But those who wore it claimed it had a strange weight, beyond the physical. Servants whispered that the gem's surface would occasionally grow ice cold, and those who touched it would dream of drowning in an endless, dark sea. The first royal victim was Princess Henrietta, a close confidant of the king. Shortly after wearing the pendant during a lavish ball, she collapsed and died mysteriously. Her body bore no wounds, no sign of illness. Physicians were baffled. The court dismissed it as a coincidence, but the deaths didn't stop there. Over the years, each wearer of the French Blue seemed to meet a grisly end. It wasn't until the French Revolution, however, that the curse reached its zenith. King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette, both in possession of the diamond, were beheaded during the Reign of Terror. The diamond vanished amid the chaos, rumored to have been stolen by looters. For decades, it was believed lost forever. But in the early 1800s, it resurfaced in England, albeit smaller and slightly altered. A gem of remarkably similar hue and brilliance had found its way into the hands of a London merchant named Daniel Eliasson. This was the first appearance of what we now know as the Hope Diamond. Eliasson, however, wouldn't enjoy his fortune for long. His life was plagued by calamities. His business collapsed overnight, and he was found dead in his shop one stormy evening, clutching the diamond in his lifeless hand. The gem was sold to repay his debts, passing through several wealthy families, each of whom suffered misfortune. Now, here's where things get even stranger. The diamond was eventually purchased by a Greek merchant who dared to wear it as a ring. On his maiden voyage across the Atlantic, his ship was overtaken by pirates. Witnesses claimed that the pirates refused to touch the diamond, believing it carried a demonic presence. They left the gem among the wreckage, and the merchant drowned at sea. The diamond found its way to America, where it was purchased by Evelyn Walsh McLean, a Washington socialite. She dismissed the rumors. believing herself immune to curses. "A diamond this beautiful," she once said, "could never bring anything but joy." But joy was far from what followed. Evelyn's beloved son Vincent died in a tragic car accident at just 9 years old. Her daughter Evie fell into a deep depression and later took her own life. Her husband abandoned her, driven to madness and ruin. Evelyn's life unraveled before her eyes, yet she continued to wear the diamond until her dying breath, calling it her talisman. Some say it clung to her not as a jewel, but as a tormentor. Here's where the story takes an unexpected twist. Harry Winston, the famed jeweler, acquired the Hope Diamond after Evelyn's death. For years, he refused to sell it. Instead, he donated it to the Smithsonian Institution, claiming he wanted to preserve its historical value. But privately, some say Winston was terrified of the curse. Before mailing the diamond, he sent it in an ordinary brown package via registered mail. The mailman who delivered it was struck by a truck just days later, breaking both of his legs. Coincidence? Or just another chapter in the curse's long, haunting history? Today, the Hope Diamond rests in the Smithsonian, encased in bulletproof glass. Millions of visitors marvel at its beauty each year, unaware of the sinister tales tied to its past. Some staff members, however, claim the curse still lingers. Lights flicker unexpectedly. A strange chill fills the room after closing hours. And once, a janitor swore he saw shadowy figures circling the display after midnight. Could it be the curse of the goddess Sita, still seeking justice for the theft of her sacred jewel? Or is the Hope Diamond simply a magnet for human misfortune? In 2018, during routine maintenance, experts discovered a faint inscription on the back of the diamond, one that had never been recorded before. It read, "Vengeance is eternal." No explanation has ever been provided, and no one knows how it came to be there. So tell me, would you dare to gaze upon the Hope Diamond knowing its dark history? Or would you heed the warnings of centuries past and turn away? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Was the curse real, or was it all just an extraordinary coincidence? This next story has to do with the Holocaust in a small, unassuming wooden box. A box you could pick up at any antique store could unleash a curse so powerful that it would destroy everything in its path. This is the story of the infamous Dybbuk box, a cursed object that has left a trail of terror and despair in its wake. But what if I also told you that there might be more to this story than anyone could have imagined? That the box's curse might not just be a relic of the past, but a key to something far more sinister? The story begins in 2001 in Portland, Oregon. Kevin Manis was the kind of guy who loved rummaging through estate sales, hunting for unique treasures. On one chilly autumn morning, he stumbled upon a sale that felt different. The house was old, the air heavy, and the items on display seemed to whisper secrets of a life long gone. Among the trinkets and heirlooms sat a peculiar wooden cabinet. It wasn't large, just big enough to fit a few wine bottles. The surface was worn, with Hebrew inscriptions carved into its panels. Kevin felt drawn to it, as though the box itself was calling his name. The seller, an elderly woman, approached him. She seemed hesitant, almost fearful, as she explained its origins. "It belonged to my grandmother," she whispered. "She was a Holocaust survivor. She used it to contain something that should never be set free." She begged Kevin not to open the box, but to him it sounded like superstition, a charming story to inflate its value. Ignoring her warnings, he purchased it, eager to add it to his antique shop's collection. Kevin brought the box back to his shop and placed it on the counter. But as he examined it, he noticed something strange. Inside were odd objects: locks of hair tied with string, a dried rose, a small goblet, and a candlestick. Each item seemed mundane, yet together they gave off an unsettling vibe. And then, the first incident. That night, as Kevin locked up the shop, he heard something. A faint scratching noise, like nails on wood. He turned to see the box, sitting perfectly still on the counter. Dismissing it as his imagination, he left. But the nightmares began that same night. Dreams of a dark figure, a woman with hollow eyes and a face twisted in rage. She didn't speak but screamed, a bone-chilling wail that echoed in Kevin's mind. The shop itself began to feel alive. Objects fell off shelves without explanation. A rancid smell, like cat urine, lingered in the air. Customers complained of feeling nauseous, their skin crawling as if they were being watched. Still, Kevin chalked it up to stress. That is, until he decided to gift the box to his mother. It was meant to be a birthday surprise. Kevin's mother unwrapped the box, her face lighting up with a smile until she touched it. Almost instantly, her expression changed. Her body stiffened, her hand clutching her chest. Moments later, she collapsed. Kevin rushed her to the hospital, where doctors confirmed she'd suffered a stroke. She survived, but something was different. Her speech was slurred, her movements unsteady. And when Kevin asked her what happened, she could only say one word: box. Fearing the worst, Kevin tried to get rid of it. He sold it to a collector, thinking that would be the end of his troubles. But the box had other plans. Every new owner reported strange occurrences. One man, a college student, claimed to see shadowy figures lurking in his apartment. Another described waking up to find deep scratches on his arms, as though something had clawed at him while he slept. Jason Haxton, a museum curator, became one of the box's most famous owners. Jason was fascinated by its reputation and decided to study it, but almost immediately, his health began to deteriorate. He suffered from intense migraines, sudden nosebleeds, and strange, unexplainable rashes. His home became a nightmare: flickering lights, broken appliances, and a constant sense of being watched. Jason also began having dreams of a malevolent entity, a shadowy form that seemed trapped inside the box. Jason eventually consulted a rabbi who confirmed his worst fears. The box, according to Jewish folklore, was a prison for a dybbuk, a restless spirit. Bound by ritual, the spirit was trapped to prevent it from wreaking havoc on the living. But by opening the box, the spirit had been set free. Here's where the story takes a darker turn. Jason managed to seal the box using a protective ritual, encasing it in a custom-built container. But during his research, he discovered something chilling. The box wasn't unique. There were whispers of other dybbuk boxes scattered around the world, each containing spirits bound by ancient rituals. Some were hidden away in private collections. Others, lost to time, might still be, waiting to be discovered. And then there's the question of the Holocaust survivor who originally owned the box. Why had she created it? What spirit had she trapped inside? Some believe it was the spirit of a Nazi officer, bound as a form of revenge. Others speculate it was something far older, a dark force she encountered during the war. But here's the most unsettling theory. What if the dybbuk box isn't a prison, but a beacon? A way to call the spirit back, to summon it into our world. In 2021, the dybbuk box was sold at auction for millions. The buyer's identity remains unknown, but rumors suggest it's now part of a secretive collection of cursed objects. Some say the box has been opened again, its contents unleashed on an unsuspecting world. Others claim the buyer is using it for experiments, attempting to harness its power. Days after the auction, strange reports began circulating. Unexplained disappearances, sightings of shadowy figures, and a surge in paranormal activity near the auction house. Could this be a coincidence? Or has the box's curse spread even further? To this day, the dybbuk box remains one of the most infamous cursed objects in history. Its origins are shrouded in mystery, its power undeniable. But one question lingers. Is the dybbuk box an isolated anomaly, or is it part of something far greater? Perhaps there are more boxes out there, waiting to be found. Or perhaps, as some believe, the dybbuk box is just the beginning. What do you think? Is this the work of a restless spirit, a dark ritual, or something beyond human comprehension? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Who would have thought a vase, something non-living and beautiful, could kill? This next story begins in 15th century Italy, in a small village surrounded by vineyards and hills. The Bassano vase was a wedding gift, commissioned by a wealthy nobleman for his daughter. The vase, hand-forged from pure silver, bore intricate floral engravings that gleamed in the candlelight. But what made it unique, and some would say sinister, was the inscription hidden at its base. In Latin, it read, "Per mortem vitam invenimus." Translated, "Through death, we find life." The bride, unaware of the inscription, adored the vase. She kept it close as her wedding day approached. But on the night before the ceremony, tragedy struck. The bride was found lifeless in her chamber, clutching the vase to her chest. Her family claimed she had fallen victim to a sudden illness. But the servants whispered of something else, something unnatural. They spoke of shadows moving in the bride's room and a chilling scream that echoed moments before her death. They said her final words were a warning. Beware the vase. It seeks blood. The family, devastated and terrified, locked the vase away. Yet it would not remain hidden for long. Over the decades, the vase passed through the hands of various relatives, and with each new owner, death followed. Some succumbed to illnesses that doctors couldn't explain. Others died in gruesome accidents. One man reportedly went mad, carving the words, "It watches me," into the walls of his study before taking his own life. By the 17th century, the family could no longer bear the curse. They sought the help of a local priest, who advised them to bury the vase and never speak of it again. And for centuries it remained underground, silent, forgotten, or so it seemed. In 1985, an unsuspecting construction crew unearthed the vase while working on renovations in northern Italy. At first they thought they'd stumbled upon a priceless relic, but one worker claimed to have heard faint whispers when he held the vase. Others dismissed it as his imagination, until he suddenly collapsed at the work site, clutching his chest. He was pronounced dead before reaching the hospital. Cause of death? A heart attack, though he'd been perfectly healthy before that day. The vase was sold at auction shortly after, and this marked the beginning of its modern reign of terror. The first buyer, a wealthy antiques dealer named Marco Ricci, proudly displayed it in his home. Within weeks, Ricci was found dead, slumped over his desk, his hand outstretched toward the vase. His death was ruled as cardiac arrest, but rumors began to swirl. The vase was sold again, this time to a historian named Alessandra Moretti. Moretti became obsessed with the vase. She believed it was tied to an ancient death cult, pointing to the Latin inscription at its base. According to her notes, this cult believed that human sacrifices could grant immortality if performed in the presence of a consecrated object, such as the vase. But before she could complete her research, Moretti vanished without a trace. Her apartment was found in disarray, with the vase sitting undisturbed on her dining table. To this day, her disappearance remains a mystery. Some say she was consumed by the curse. Others whisper that she uncovered something too dangerous to be revealed. Here's where the story takes an even darker turn. In 1998, the vase was anonymously donated to a small museum in Venice. It arrived with a note: "This object carries death. Do not display it." The museum curator, skeptical of such claims, brushed aside the warning and placed the vase in a glass display case. Visitors flocked to see the mysterious artifact, but soon, the staff began experiencing strange phenomena. Doors slammed open, lights flickered, and several employees reported hearing faint whispers near the display. Whispers that seemed to grow louder when no one else was around. Within months, 3 employees had died, 2 in freak accidents, and 1 from an apparent suicide. The museum finally decided to remove the vase, locking it in the basement archives. But it didn't stay there for long. One night, a security guard patrolling the museum claimed to hear the sound of breaking glass. When he checked the archives, he found the vase's display case shattered, but the vase itself was gone. No alarms had been triggered, and the security footage showed nothing unusual. The vase had simply vanished, or so they thought. In 2010, whispers of the Bassano vase surfaced again, this time in a private auction in London. A bidder purchased the vase for an astronomical price, only to die in a car crash. The vase once again disappeared. Some believe it's still out there, hidden in the hands of a secret collector or buried once more to keep its curse contained. Others speculate that the vase is no longer just an object but something more, an entity that thrives on fear and death, bound by the blood spilled in its presence. And then there's a third theory, one that sends chills down my spine. What if the vase isn't cursed at all? What if it's a vessel, a portal to something far worse? To this day, no one knows the truth behind the Bassano vase. Is it an ordinary object plagued by coincidence? A cursed relic with a thirst for blood? Or the key to an ancient, unspeakable evil? What do you think? Would you dare to touch the Bassano vase, knowing its deadly reputation? Or would you bury it deep, hoping its curse never resurfaces? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're captivated by stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Haunt, Fear, Horror, where we share stories others don't dare to tell. There's a new tale every day, each one darker than the last. Like this human fossil of 5,000 years that is still dropping corpse around its path, meet Otzi, the Iceman, In the shadow of the Ötztal Alps, buried beneath a glacier's icy grip, lay a secret frozen in time. Ötzi the Iceman, a 5,000-year-old mummy discovered by chance, has become one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of our time. But what if I told you that his story isn't just about ancient survival? It's a tale of betrayal, conspiracy, and perhaps even a curse. Who was Ötzi? Why was he brutally murdered? And what dark secrets still linger in the frozen Alps? This isn't just a story of discovery. It's the haunting unraveling of a prehistoric murder mystery that may never truly be solved. It was September 1991 when Erika and Helmut Simon, two hikers exploring the Ötztal Alps, stumbled upon something that would make history. At first they thought it was the remains of a mountaineer, one of many who had lost their lives to the treacherous terrain. But as the ice gave way, the truth began to emerge. This body was no ordinary climber. This man had been dead for over 5,000 years. What they found wasn't just a body, it was a time capsule. Ötzi, as he would later be called, was astonishingly preserved, complete with his clothes, weapons, and even his last meal. But alongside this discovery came unsettling clues: an arrowhead lodged in his shoulder, defensive wounds on his hands, and evidence of a brutal death. Who killed Ötzi? And what secrets did he take to his icy grave? To understand Ötzi's death, we must first understand his life. He lived during the Copper Age, a time when humanity was transitioning from stone tools to metal. He was likely a high-ranking member of his community, perhaps even a leader. His copper axe, a rare and valuable tool, suggests he held power, but power comes with enemies. Scientists discovered over 60 tattoos on his body, many placed near joints. These weren't decorative. They were likely therapeutic, an ancient form of acupuncture. Ötzi suffered from arthritis, but his life wasn't just about survival against the elements. He was also surviving something far more dangerous: his fellow man. Ötzi's final moments were anything but peaceful. Forensic analysis revealed that he didn't die instantly. The arrow that pierced his shoulder severed an artery, causing him to bleed out slowly. But before that, he fought. Defensive wounds on his hands suggest he was attacked first with a blade or club. Whoever wanted Ötzi dead wasn't content to simply kill him. They wanted to make him suffer. But here's where things get even stranger. The pollen found in Ötzi's stomach suggests he climbed from a lush valley to the icy mountaintop within hours of his death. Was he fleeing his attackers, or was he lured into a deadly trap? Ötzi's death wasn't random. Analysis of his belongings revealed something shocking. DNA from several other individuals was found on his weapons and clothing. One was from a man whose blood was smeared on Ötzi's knife. Another was from someone who bled onto his coat. Could these men have been his allies in a fight? Or were they his killers? The most chilling theory: Ötzi's killers may have been people he trusted, tribe members, or even family. Perhaps a power struggle erupted, and Ötzi, a leader, became a target. After all, his copper axe was a symbol of status. When he died, his killers left the axe behind. Why? Was it too recognizable, or did they want to send a message? Some archaeologists have proposed an even darker possibility. Ötzi's death wasn't a simple murder. It may have been a ritual sacrifice. His carefully arranged body and the placement of his weapons suggest a deliberate act. Was Ötzi offered to the gods to secure his clan's survival, or was he sacrificed as part of an ancient revenge ritual? Even more eerie, legends among the Alpine tribes speak of the man in the ice, a figure who would protect the mountains but demand blood in return. Could Ötzi have been part of this myth long before his body was discovered? But Ötzi's story doesn't end with his death. Since his discovery, a series of bizarre and tragic events have unfolded. 7 people connected to Ötzi's excavation and study have died under mysterious circumstances, including the hikers who found him and the forensic expert who examined him. Heart attacks, accidents, even an avalanche. Could it all be coincidence? Or is Ötzi's spirit exacting revenge? Some believe the curse is real, that disturbing Ötzi's icy grave unleashed something ancient and vengeful. After all, for 5,000 years, he lay undisturbed, guarding the secrets of his death. Did we awaken something that should have stayed frozen in time? In recent years, new technology has uncovered even more chilling details. Ötzi's stomach contained traces of toxic herbs, suggesting he may have been poisoned before he was attacked. Was this an attempt to weaken him, ensuring he couldn't fight back? Or was it an act of desperation, an attempt to heal himself from a sickness inflicted by his enemies? Ötzi wasn't alone in the Alps. Nearby, researchers discovered signs of another camp abandoned in haste. Could this have been where his killers waited, watching him take his final breaths? This story is one of survival, betrayal, and haunting questions that may never be answered. Who killed him? Was it an act of vengeance, sacrifice, or something even more sinister? And why does his presence still echo through the centuries, touching everyone who dares to uncover his secrets? What do you think? Was Ötzi a victim of greed, power, or an ancient curse? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, some secrets are meant to stay buried. Because till today, no one wants to lay their hands on a mere painting and end up in tragedy. A painting so sinister it's been called the eBay haunted painting. But what if the truth about this painting is far darker than anyone realizes? Let's start where most stories end. At an online auction in the year 2000, a seller listed The Hands Resist Him, describing it as haunted. The painting, they claimed, had an unnerving habit of changing at night. They swore the boy and the doll depicted in the artwork would move within the frame, sometimes even stepping out into the room. But that wasn't all. Anyone who stared at the painting for too long felt ill, plagued by a sensation of being watched. Some even fainted. For the daring or foolish, it was too tempting to resist. But before we dive deeper into the painting's haunted reputation, let's go back to its origins. The artist Bill Stoneham created The Hands Resist Him in 1972. He described it as autobiographical, a reflection of his childhood. The boy, that's young Bill. The doll-like girl, a guide, a protector of sorts. And the hands pressing against the glass door, well, they represented the other side, a world of possibilities just beyond our reach. But here's where things get strange. Every person involved in the painting's early life met an untimely death. The first was the gallery owner who displayed it, then the art critic who reviewed it, and finally, Stoneham's agent, all within a year of the painting's debut. Stoneham, rattled but alive, brushed it off as coincidence. But was it? Here's a detail most people don't know. Stoneham painted The Hands Resist Him, using oils from an antique set he found in a thrift store. The paints were labeled in an unfamiliar language, possibly German. But the real kicker? They had a faint metallic smell, almost like blood. Stoneham later admitted he felt possessed while painting, unable to stop even when he wanted to. The process took exactly 33 hours, a number he dismissed at the time but later realized had occult significance. Fast forward to 2000, the painting was sold on eBay to a gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where the strange events continued. Visitors to the gallery reported cold spots near the painting, feelings of dizziness, and an overwhelming sense of dread. A janitor quit after claiming he heard faint knocking coming from inside the frame late at night. But the most bizarre account came from a man who said the boy's hand reached out toward him. He fainted on the spot, waking up hours later with no memory of the incident, except for a burning sensation on his wrist, as if he'd been grabbed. Here's where things get even darker. Investigators, yes, actual paranormal investigators, took an interest in the painting. One team brought specialized equipment to the gallery to test for electromagnetic fields, often associated with paranormal activity. What they found shocked them. The painting emitted a strange frequency, almost like a pulse, strongest near the boy's figure. But when they tried to record the phenomenon, their equipment failed. Batteries drained, audio recordings became garbled, and one camera operator claimed to see a shadowy figure in the lens, standing behind him. Theories began to swirl. Was the painting truly haunted, or was it cursed? Some speculated that the hands pressing against the glass were reaching out, not in, trying to pull someone into their world. Others believed the painting was a portal, a gateway to something far more sinister. And then, one researcher made a chilling discovery. He found an old police report from 1948 about a fire in Chicago. The report described a boy and a doll found in the ruins of a burned-down house. The doll, eerily similar to the one in the painting, was said to have human-like features and was later destroyed due to public hysteria. But here's the twist no one saw coming. In 2016, a private collector bought The Hands Resist Him. The new owner, a reclusive millionaire, claimed he had no paranormal experiences at first, but then his security footage began to glitch. One night, the cameras caught movement in the gallery room where the painting was displayed. A figure, childlike but distorted, walked across the room. The collector dismissed it as a technical issue until the figure appeared again. Closer this time. The footage ends abruptly with the camera lens cracking. The collector has since vanished, leaving no trace except for a note scribbled on the back of the painting that read, "It's open." So where is the Hands Resist Him now? Officially, it's still in private hands, but rumors suggest it's been locked away in a vault, far from prying eyes. Some say it's for our protection. Others believe it's to stop the painting from drawing its next victim. And then there are those who think the painting isn't done yet, that it's waiting for the right moment to reappear, bringing with it something far worse than shadows or whispers. Could it be that the Hands Resist Him isn't cursed at all? What if it's not the painting that's haunted, but the people who come into contact with it? Perhaps the painting reflects the darkness we already carry within us, amplifying our fears, our guilt, and our secrets until they consume us. Or perhaps it's both, a mirror and a door. What do you think? Is the Hands Resist Him a masterpiece with an eerie reputation? Or is there something truly supernatural at play? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you're brave enough to search for an image of the painting, be warned. Sometimes, the eyes staring back at you aren't just painted, and this is not the only cursed painting to ever foul on humans. What if I told you that a seemingly innocent painting, a portrait of a teary-eyed child, could bring catastrophe to every home it entered? Fires erupting out of nowhere, homes reduced to ash, and yet, this painting remains completely untouched. This isn't just a campfire tale, it's the true story of the Crying Boy painting, a cursed masterpiece that has left a trail of devastation and unanswered questions in its wake. But as we unravel this mystery, you'll come to realize, this story doesn't end where you think it does. To understand the chilling legacy of the Crying Boy, we must begin in 1985, in a small town in England. It was a cold autumn evening when a firefighter named Ron Hall responded to what he thought was a routine house fire. By the time Ron and his team arrived, the house was nearly engulfed in flames. But amidst the charred remains of family photographs, furniture, and mementos, one item stood unscathed, a painting of a crying boy. This wasn't the first time Ron had seen this painting. In fact, it wasn't even the second. Over the past year, his team had responded to several eerily similar incidents. The houses were different, the families were different, but the painting was always the same. Word of these strange fires spread quickly, and soon, local tabloids were buzzing with headlines. Cursed painting sparks mystery fires. Homeowners who owned the painting began to panic, convinced that their lives and their homes were in danger. Some burned their copies of the painting in an effort to break the curse. But that's where the story takes an unexpected turn. One homeowner, a woman named Claire Thompson, tried to destroy the painting herself. She tossed it into her backyard bonfire, only to watch in horror as the flames parted, leaving the canvas untouched. That night, Claire swore she heard the faint sound of a child crying from her living room. Desperate for answers, Claire began investigating the origins of the painting. That's when she stumbled upon the story of Bruno Amadio, the Italian painter behind the Crying Boy. Amadio, also known as Giovanni Bragolin, was a mysterious and reclusive artist who painted a series of portraits featuring orphans in the aftermath of World War II. According to legend, one of his subjects was a boy named Don Bonillo, a troubled child with a tragic past. Wherever Don went, fires seemed to follow. The locals called him Diablo. It's said that Amadio grew close to Don during the painting sessions, but one fateful day, the boy vanished, never to be seen again. Soon after, Amadio's studio burned to the ground under mysterious circumstances. Some believe that the boy's spirit became trapped within the painting, cursed to spread the very fires that consumed his life. But that's not the whole story. Decades later, in the 1990s, a journalist named Mark Watson decided to investigate the curse for himself. He tracked down families who had owned copies of the painting and uncovered a startling detail. Nearly all of them had suffered not only fires, but also a series of unexplained tragedies, illness, financial ruin, even sudden deaths. Then came Mark's most shocking discovery. One man, a retired art dealer, claimed to know the true origin of the painting. According to him, the Crying Boy wasn't just one painting. It was part of a series, a ritual, he called it. Each portrait was tied to a different orphan who had died under mysterious circumstances. The paintings, he insisted, were cursed not by the children themselves, but by something far darker. This is where the story takes a sinister twist. Mark began receiving anonymous letters, warning him to stop his investigation. One night, as he was reviewing his notes, he noticed something chilling. The crying boy in the painting seemed to have moved. His gaze, once forlorn and downward, was now fixed directly on Mark. That same night, Mark's home was engulfed in flames. He escaped with his life, but his research and his copy of the painting were destroyed. But what if the curse wasn't just tied to the painting? Some researchers believe that the real curse lies in the act of looking at the painting. The boy's sorrowful eyes draw you in, forcing you to connect with his pain. This emotional connection, they argue, is what invites misfortune into your life. Others take the theory even further. They believe that the crying boy is a conduit, a portal that allows malevolent entities to enter our world. One such account comes from a family in Wales. They claim that after hanging the painting in their living room, they began experiencing strange phenomena, objects moving on their own, doors slamming shut, and the unmistakable sound of a child crying in the middle of the night. When the family finally removed the painting, they discovered something shocking. On the back of the canvas, scrawled in faint handwriting, were the words, "You cannot escape." So, is the crying boy painting truly cursed? Skeptics argue that the fires can be explained by a fire-retardant varnish used on the painting, which allowed it to survive when other items burned. But that doesn't explain the whispers, the moving eyes, or the countless tragedies tied to its owners. And here's the most chilling thought of all. There are still hundreds, if not thousands, of copies of the crying boy hanging in homes around the world. If the curse is real, then it's far from over. In fact, it could be closer than you think. What do you think? Is this just a coincidence? Or could the crying boy painting truly be cursed? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you've ever seen this painting or owned it, share your story. Who knows? It might just help us uncover the truth. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more chilling tales. We post new videos every day, exploring the darkest corners of the unknown. Stay curious, and maybe stay away from that antique shop. But it isn't just antique shops that possess darkness. What do you believe about mirrors? Because this next story is being scraped from the internet today as we speak. Among the oaks of Louisiana lies a mansion frozen in time, the Myrtles Plantation. Its beauty is undeniable, a perfect facade that hides a darker truth. This plantation is a place of tragedy and secrets, where the past bleeds into the present. And at the heart of it all is a single unassuming object, a mirror. But this isn't just any mirror. It's said to be cursed, a portal or worse, an eternal prison for restless spirits. Tonight, I will take you beyond the stories you may have heard, because what lies within that mirror's surface isn't just a reflection, it's a truth more horrifying than anyone expected. Built in 1796, the Myrtles Plantation has seen generations come and go, yet the shadow of tragedy clings to it like a storm cloud. The story of the mirror begins with the Woodruff family, but this isn't just the tale of Sarah Woodruff and her children being poisoned by the enslaved woman Chloe. No, the truth is far messier and far more terrifying. According to locals, Chloe's actions were not out of jealousy, as the popular story goes. Instead, she was forced into something far darker, a ritual meant to protect her from her own fate. Legend says Chloe wasn't just a servant. She was a reluctant practitioner of hoodoo, coerced by Sarah Woodruff herself to perform rituals meant to protect the family from misfortune. But when one of those rituals went wrong, it set off a chain of events that led to the family's deaths. Before her death, Chloe confessed to a fellow servant that the mirror had absorbed something. She begged her confidant to cover it, but her warnings were ignored. The mirror stayed exposed, and with it, Sarah and her daughters. Spirits were drawn inside, along with something else, something darker. Since that fateful day, the mirror has been an object of fascination and fear. Visitors to the plantation frequently report strange occurrences. The most common complaint? Handprints. But these aren't ordinary smudges. They appear as though pressed from the inside of the glass. No amount of cleaning can erase them. And then there are the faces, brief, fleeting glimpses of Sarah and her children staring back at those who dare to linger too long. In 1972, a guest staying at the plantation attempted to photograph the mirror. When the film was developed, the image was blurred, but something could be made out. Two small figures standing in the distance, faces obscured, with a third, a shadowy figure, looming between them. The guest never returned to the plantation. In 1986, the Myrtles Plantation welcomed the Randall family, a couple with their young son and daughter. They came as tourists but left as a chilling cautionary tale. On their second night at the plantation, Mrs. Randall was awakened by a sound, knocking, faint but persistent, coming from the hall. Assuming it was one of her children, she stepped out to investigate. As she walked toward the sound, it grew louder, sharper, until she found herself in front of the mirror. What she saw was enough to make her blood run cold. In the glass, she didn't see her reflection. Instead, she saw her son standing behind her, his face blank, his mouth open in a silent scream. When she turned, he wasn't there. The next morning, the Randall family left without explanation, abandoning half their belongings. Days later, the staff found their room untouched, save for the mirror, which had inexplicably cracked at the center. No one knows what truly happened that night, but the Randall family was never seen in public again. For decades, the plantation owners have kept the mirror as a centerpiece, capitalizing on its haunted reputation. But there's a detail few know, a story whispered among former staff members. In the 1990s, a local historian named Margaret Simmons came to investigate the mirror. She was skeptical of the stories and sought to prove them wrong. After hours of research, Margaret found something strange. The mirror wasn't listed in the plantation's original inventory. In fact, it didn't appear in any records until 1870, nearly 75 years after the plantation was built. Where did it come from? Margaret's search led her to an old diary belonging to a previous owner. It described the mirror as a gift from a French craftsman who specialized in occult objects. The diary included a chilling warning: do not let the mirror go uncovered, lest the trapped find their way out. What exactly had been trapped? And why was it gifted to the Myrtles plantation? Margaret believed the mirror was connected to Chloe's rituals. She theorized that it was used in an ancient hoodoo spell, designed to trap malevolent spirits. But something had gone terribly wrong. Instead of keeping evil at bay, the mirror became a beacon, drawing spirits to it like moths to a flame. Her investigation ended abruptly. Margaret's family reported her missing 3 days later. Her car was found abandoned near the plantation, her research papers scattered inside. But the most disturbing clue, her journal. The final entry read, "I saw them. They're not human." To this day, her disappearance remains unsolved. In 2015, the mirror was temporarily removed for restoration. That's when restorers made a chilling discovery. Etched into the back of the frame were symbols, faint but deliberate, resembling an ancient sigil. Experts in occult symbology identified it as a binding spell, designed not to trap spirits but to contain something far worse. Could the mirror be holding a demonic entity? Was it Chloe's final act of desperation to protect the plantation? Or is the mirror itself cursed, feeding on the lives of those who dare look too closely? Today, the mirror hangs in its usual place at the Myrtles plantation, drawing thousands of visitors each year. Some come for the thrill, others for answers. But one thing remains constant: the mirror doesn't just reflect, it remembers. And those who look too long might find themselves becoming part of its story. So the next time you stand before a mirror, ask yourself, is it just your reflection staring back, or something waiting to come through? So what do you think? Can these objects, the Hope Diamond, the cursed mirror, and even the tragic disappearances truly be explained by coincidence? Or is there something far darker at play? Something that's been hidden from us all, waiting to be uncovered? We've only just scratched the surface of these haunting tales, and there are many more to come. But remember, not all that glitters is gold, and not all stories have a happy ending. So the next time you find yourself drawn to something beautiful, ask yourself, could it be hiding a darkness far worse than anything you could imagine? If you've enjoyed these eerie tales and want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like, and share with anyone who enjoys the chills. I'll be back soon with more mysteries from the edges of reality. Until then, keep your curiosity sharp. Stay curious, stay cautious, and don't look too closely at your reflection. These are stories we don't tell.